Good evening, one and all, and welcome to the Celebrity Creator Show. How are you doing tonight, Kathy?
Brian, I am doing awesome and excited about our guest. How about you?
Oh, I am fired up, jazzed, excited. This is one dynamo of a speaker, an author. He does everything, and we can't wait to bring him on. So, with that, let's just jump in and introduce this magnificent individual that you are about to meet. Now, no matter what business you're in, this internationally recognized speaker and trainer is someone you deserve to know. Why? Because Casey Eberhart has connections. He's made it his mission over the years to collect and connect. He collects relationships and connects people so they can do business together. He is focused on your success. Entrepreneurs know this, business owners know this, and so will you. As an outward expression of his ability to draw people together, Casey's events are among the fastest growing in all of Southern California. Founder of the popular blog site, theidealnetworker.com, he's a sought after as a speaker and has led countless leadership seminars across the nation. Since the release of Stepping Stones to Success, a book he co-authored with Deepak Chopra and Jack Canfield last fall, Casey Eberhart has been turning heads in the training industry. His formulas are simple and easy to learn. An entrepreneur most of his life, Casey has a special affinity for home-based business. His training programs employ a series of easy-to-follow steps that will help you to reach your true awesomeness, whatever industry you're in. That's our show for tonight. We're glad you joined us. That was a long intro, but now with that, Kathy and I would love to welcome Casey Eberhart to the Celebrity Creator Show. Casey, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hey guys, I am absolutely thrilled to be here. I've been waiting for this for weeks, and I'm just so honored and thrilled to be with you guys.
Well, I'll tell you what, we are honored and thrilled too, and we're excited about sharing you with some of our viewers. And we know that you've brought some of the people that you hang with you too. So it's going to be a party tonight.
Well, it's all about traveling with the people you're connected to. So
You know what? And that fits perfect because you are the ideal networker and the ideal connector as far as we're concerned. So, how did you start out and where did the ideal network come to play in everything that you do?
Well, I started business when I was a kid. My first business lesson came when I was 5 years old, and I'll never forget it. It's a heartfelt story, at least from my perspective, every time I tell it. And that is when I was 5 years old, my grandfather, who was a true entrepreneur, a guy that believed in multiple streams of income, always had all kinds of business going all over the world. In Fowler, Colorado, little less than a one-light town, to be honest. I think there's a beer place and a pizza place, and that's the whole town. But my grandfather set up shop. And when I was 5, my grandfather put me on a tractor and drove me past his rental house that was on his property, then past his Model A and Model T Ford restoration shop that was on his property, second stream of income, past his antique store, third stream of income, into his pasture, which was land, fourth stream, through 50,000 head of cattle, fifth stream, through oil wells and gas wells. You get the picture.
Goodness.
We stopped in the middle of this field, everything cleared out, and he said, Casey, I want to teach you one lesson in business that if you get this, everything else will work out. I'm like, okay, Granddad, but I just want to drive the tractor. And he said this. He said, always give the customer more value than they would ever expect to receive, and everything will be okay. I was like, okay, I don't really know what that means, but okay, let's go back to the antique store, because I love garage sales and thrift stores. I love seeing other people's junk is what I love, right? So we drove back to the antique store. That was basically a working garage sale for all intents and purposes. And I remember these two ladies came in. It was my very first sort of business transaction I'd ever done. These two ladies came in and bought, and I wish I had it with me, a blue insulator is what they're called. But they are these giant hunks of useless glass. And they used to sit on the top of the telephone poles back in the old days, and they'd run telephone wires and electric wires down them. Well, they bought these things for $1. They bought 2 of them. And I kept thinking, how do I give them more value, more value, more value, more value? So I wrapped these things up in newspaper. Then I put them in a box. Then I put them in a bag. And then I took that bag and I walked out to the car with these ladies, and I actually opened up the back door and seat belted these glass insulators in the backseat of this car. And for that, I will never forget this as long as I live. The woman took out a 20 and handed me a $20 tip. So for a $2 purchase, she gave me $20. And this was back 35 years ago, because I'm about to turn 40. So $20 meant something back then. For me, that was it. I was hooked, absolutely hooked on giving more value than people ever expect to receive. And throughout my career as an entrepreneur, I've just taken that philosophy and built on it. So I realized when I was probably in junior high, high school, that networking was really, I didn't really know what it was called at that point, but connecting with other people and then giving those people more value than they ever expect to receive ultimately brings back tons of business my way. And that's really how it got started, was way back when I was 5 with that business lesson. Wow. Coming up through the ranks, you know, I had some amazing opportunities to meet people and network with people in government. I worked for an amusement park where we ended up selling it to a big conglomerate, and we would never have got to do that without a skill set of networking. And so just as I kind of come up through the ranks as an entrepreneur, it sort of just seemed fitting that I would have networking somewhere in my brand or somewhere in my business. And ironically, the word ideal networker, or the ideal networker, came from a guy I read, a guy by the name of Mike Dillard. I'm sure probably both of you have heard of Mike, but way back in about 1995 or 97, Mike Dillard put out a book called Magnetic Sponsoring. And in the very first edition of Magnetic Sponsoring, it wasn't even called Magnetic Sponsoring. The website was actually idealtrends.com. And in his report, or his book that he gave away, it said that he used the word ideal just merely because it was generic enough to encompass everything and you wouldn't really get stuck behind trying to figure out a domain name. So I was like, okay, networker, ideal networker. Okay, that sounds cool. And that was really how it all came about. Wow. It was actually kind of funny. I actually never tell that story. I think this is actually the very first time I've ever told that story, actually. But I did get a chance to tell Mike that story at an event we did together a few months ago, and he just cracked up and rolled his eyes at me.
Well, you know what's so cool about it? This is Behind the Curtain with Casey Eberhart, a Candid interview. So
well,
we're expecting some little things like that to come out.
That's right.
Honest to goodness, that's about as candid as you get, because I honestly don't think I've ever even told that story.
That's pretty cool, only because Brian and I have known each other for quite a long time, and we both, you know, I think we are both proud owners of Magnetic Sponsoring and what it was before as well. So yep. I saw him smiling, and I was smiling at the same time. You know, it's like brings back those nice memories of yesteryear, you know, days past. So very cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and black belt recruiting, the whole thing. It's all excellent stuff. Now, first of all, the first thing you came out and said, what your dad told you, was the best tip and value. That was worth the entire show right there. You know, to give extreme value, go overboard to the point where a customer will never expect it. And you actually got to experience that very early on. So it's ingrained in you, and that's fantastic. Now, so we can all tell that everything comes to you naturally. You don't have to work. You don't ever have a challenge in your life. So that's good for you. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
What we really want to know is, what types of challenges have you faced along the way, and were they easy to overcome? I mean, tell everyone out there what it's like to climb that ladder of entrepreneurship and reach the level you have attained thus far.
Well, you know, I mean, Brian, one of the thing about challenges is it's all relative, right? What I'm going to tell you is one of my biggest challenges may for somebody else be a blip. Nobody cares. True. And so all I can say about challenges is they are mountains to whoever are incurring them.
It's so true.
And I think that's really, it's all relative. It's all easy to keep in mind. You know, I didn't grow up in a poor neighborhood on the wrong side of the tracks. I grew up with fantastic parents. I will say I kind of joke that I come from a broken home. My dad is a very conservative Republican. My mom is a bleeding heart Democrat. It makes for interesting political conversations and parties. But what it did was it gave me a well-rounded sort of social education at a pretty young age. So it's not that that was really a challenge for me, but as an entrepreneur, I have the same struggles and challenges as most entrepreneurs. You know, our income goes like this, our mood goes like this, our relationships go like this, employees go like this, employees' moods go like this, employees' bank accounts go like this. So challenges are just one step closer to extreme success, as I see it.
Love it.
So, you know, I've had challenges. I like I alluded to earlier, I used to work at an amusement park, and, you know, we had some challenges in trying to sell that park, in dealing with big corporate entities. I come from the film business. Actually, when I moved to Los Angeles, I was privileged enough to work in the entertainment industry for quite some time, moved on, and through a series of entrepreneurs, I would say my biggest challenge is that I'm a big thinker, not too focused on the details. And so for me, one of the challenges that I've had to overcome is really being able to find the workability between big picture and small picture. You know, and to give you some ideas, you know, I used to own a sweatshop, right? I'm not embarrassed to say it. Some people call it sweatshop, but I'm in marketing, so it's a perspiration salon, right? But, you know, we made 6,000 pair of women's pants a day.
Wow.
Had 120 employees with 2 different cultures. Neither of those cultures liked each other, much less me, because I don't know if you can tell via this, but I'm about as white as this whiteboard behind me. So it was a great exercise in how to lose $100,000 a month with barely even trying. I should actually...
Oh, having a little glitch with his audio and video at the moment. Should be back momentarily.
You
There you are.
Yes. Are we back?
Yep, we're back. We're back. It was just a
Okay.
momentary lapse there.
So, you know, I was just saying, challenges are merely things that you have to overcome, and they're just steps in a journey. And here's, at the end of the day, all the worry in the world, it's just, at the end of the day, it's what's so. My business coach gave me a poem. Yvonne gave me a poem once that was called "What's So is What's So." And it was just talked about that no matter what at the end of the day you're worrying about or what the challenge is, it is what it is. And you're not going to be able to change it unless you make a different decision. So for me, challenges, I love challenges because it means that I'm stretching, I'm going outside of my normal comfort zone, and then being able to settle back into a new comfort zone with a new set of experiences and new challenges behind me.
Very well put.
That's awesome. Now I got to tell you, Brian and I have seen you on several occasions in action, connecting with people and networking with people, and it's absolutely amazing to watch you. With that being said, I want people to know that watching you connect and networking comes totally from your heart. You are so genuine, Casey, in how you connect and respond with other people. It's so sincere. But what kind of strategies in that, even coming from a heart space and heart place in connecting as you do you have put together to create successful connections?
Well, first off, Kathy, thank you. I appreciate that. And you know, for me, I kind of have another sort of, I live by 2 sort of quotes, if you will, and I keep these in the back of my head at all time. And the first one is that opportunities multiply as they are seized. So if somebody's not out there taking advantage of opportunities as they're coming up, they're not really given more opportunities. Somehow the universe has a way that if it sees that you're taking opportunities, it puts more in your lap. That's the first one. And then the second one, which is probably more succinct in what you're talking about, is that connectivity is today's new currency. And it's really important to understand that you can have all the gold and the silver and the Federal Reserve notes and dollars and yen and stock and bonds and all of this, all art, there's art on the wall behind me, whatever. At the end of the day, if all of that burns up and goes to hell in a handbasket, what I'm going to have left are my connections, right? So to me, that's the new currency. Who are we connected to? Who do I know? And who do I know who wants to know who I know? Right? So we start with that. Now, here's the thing about sincerity and genuineness in networking. It has to come from your heart. But if we can put the odds in our favor that we're going to build out some better connections with some better, more influential people, right? Then why not do that? If you're going to have to go to a networking event and be there anyways, why not go with a system or a strategy or a formula ahead of time, knowing exactly who you're going to talk to and what to say before you ever get there? And so what I did was I just really started to put down what my strategies were in networking. So I'm actually going to draw it out for you, if that's cool.
That'd be great.
I know all of you at home are laughing, going, well, yeah, of course you're going to. That's why the whiteboard's behind there, right? So if you guys could see how this whiteboard is held up right now, you would all be laughing at me. This is true television magic, right? Okay, I'm only going to say this. A bunch of dictionaries and really thick books that don't get used very often. Okay, so here's kind of the theory. I want you to think about a Chamber of Commerce meeting, right? Most people don't like going to a Chamber of Commerce meeting. Why? Because there's 150 people selling 150 products to 150 people that have no interest in buying anything because they're there to sell you their 150 products that you're not there to buy anyways, right?
So true.
So for me, couple of things ahead of time. I never ever take business cards to networking events, ever. And before I go into this, let me just tangent for a second on why that is. The reason I don't take cards to networking events is, let's say I go and I hand out 50 business cards, right? What I've really done is given 50 people permission, whether they believe it or not, to put me on their email list. Now I'm going to start getting inundated with sales emails from all these people I have no interest in talking to in the first place. So I just don't take them. For me, I want to be in control of the flow of information. I use a chamber of event as a jumping off point, place to connect with people, not to sell them my products in the first place, because nobody's there as a buyer, right? So the first thing I do is I never take cards. The second thing is I go and position myself as a buyer. I'm there to listen. I actually make it a challenge for myself to see if I can get through the whole night without saying what I do for a living. And here's the reality. Most people, if you keep them talking, won't ever ask you what you do anyway. So it actually works out easily, and it's fantastic. Most people are just yap about themselves, which basically is nothing more than telling you how to close them into whatever business you're in, right? I mean, most people, if you just let them talk long enough, they're going to tell you what their problem is, and your job is to sell them a solution. It's pretty easy when it comes down to it, right? So when I go to an event, I spend about an hour working. And after that, I can go and enjoy the cheese cubes and the Triscuit and the bad wine. Sometimes I say $2 Chuck, but some people will know what that is and some won't. So if you know what $2 Chuck is, then it's funny. If you don't know what $2 Chuck is, then insert bad wine here for the joke punchline. Okay.
I love it.
So when I go to a networking event, I'm looking to talk to 5 people. And I spend about 5 minutes with each of these people, right? So the first one, is that big enough? Is that big enough? Yeah.
Yes.
I want to meet the speaker. Why do I want to get to know the speaker? Let me tell you. If they're good, they are going to be interactive in their presentation. And if I've met them ahead of time, there is a higher likelihood that they're going to bring my name up from the front of the room, which is giving me extra exposure, publicity, and sets me apart from the crowd. This is a true story. I tell this story from the stage a lot. But Ivan Meisner, who is the founder and creator of BNI, Business Networking International, largest networking organization in the world, he was doing an event here in Los Angeles. And it was about 500 entrepreneurs, and he was here to sell some books. Well, I showed up at this event. I was armed. I had just read an article he had written, and I didn't really agree with it. So I show up at this event. I'm thinking he's going to be mobbed. He's over in the corner, not talking to anyone, just sipping on some coffee. This is really early in the morning, right? So I march right up there, and I'm like, Dr. Meisner, my name's Casey Eberhart, and I'm with this company, and I just want to let you know, I just read your article in Networking Times but about the Santa Claus and the Easter rabbit, and I kind of had a different take on it. And he was like, oh my gosh, will you please sit in the front row and ask me any question when the question and answer time comes, because that's going to tie into my new book, and I'm here to sell books. That would be awesome. So I like traipse to the front of the row, and I'm like kicking people out of their seats. This is breakfast meat. I'm like, get your Danish and get out of my way. Meisner wants me to sit in the front row, right? So comes time for question and answer, and I raise my hand, you know, like I'm Arnold Horshack from Welcome Back, Kotter. I'm like, oh, ooh, 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 right? The kids won't get that, but us older folks will. And he calls on me and he says, hi, your name's Casey Eberhart, right? And I said, yes. And he says, hey, I just met Casey ahead of time and blah, 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 blah. He talked about me for 11 minutes in front of 500 entrepreneurs.
Beautiful.
You always want to get to know the speaker. You couldn't buy that publicity, right? So the next person I always try to meet at an event is the organizer, right? Is it O-R or E-R? I'm not sure. I'm not a speller. It's organizer, right? Now, the reason I get to know the organizer is, look, let's face it. Let's just call it what it is. The organizer knows who's good, who's bad, who pays their bills, who doesn't pay their bills, who people are sleeping with, who they're not sleeping with, the gossip of who's got it in and who's on their way out. They know everything about everyone. That's their job. So if you want to know somebody specific and you want to get known inside of a chamber, or I'm just using chamber, but insert anything here, association, PTA, Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions, whatever, get to know the organizer. I promise you they'll be able to steer you in the right direction of who you want to meet specifically for your business. Okay? And then the next three people are what I call yappers, right? So yapper number one, yapper number two, and yapper number three. Okay? Now, Kathy and Brian, you know who these yappers are because you're both yappers, right? So I'm a yapper too. I'm a yapper. He's a yapper. Okay, well, that's Dr. Pepper takeoffs. But
we just lost our audio with Casey.
supposed to answer. Am I answering this?
There we go.
Are we back online?
Yes,
Okay.
your audio went away for about 10 seconds.
No worries. I was just saying that yappers never stand next to each other. We're always on both sides of the room because somebody might hear what we're saying and we want to hold the attention, right? They're the people that are yap jobs, right? Chitter chatter, they're telling jokes, they think they're really funny. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't, but they're yap jobs, right? So now remember, so far, I've not taken business cards and I'm not talking about my business. This is only about connecting because connectivity is the new currency, okay? Yes. So I meet the speaker, the organizer, yapper number one, yapper number two, and yapper number three. Spend about 5 minutes getting to know each of them. That's about 25 minutes into this gig, right? Now I might get hungry, I'll go have some cheese cubes, come back, and now the work begins, right? So here's what we do. We now start introducing these folks to each other. Yapper number one to the organizer, the speaker to yapper number three, maybe yapper number two to yapper number three, you know, maybe yapper number one to yapper number three. We just work inside those 5 people. And we introduce them, and it may be something like, hey, Kathy, come here, I want you to meet Brian. Brian, hey, this is Kathy. She does this, this, this. Brian, hey, he does this, 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 right? And, oh, by the way, when you're talking to these people for the first time, you always want to carry a Sharpie. The reason you carry a Sharpie is it's the only pen that writes on all the business cards. You know, even those glossy cards where you have to take a ballpoint pen and you like dig into it and it only like puts like 1 out of every 10 inches of writing of ink.
Yes.
I always ask people, I say, hey, look, who's going to make the best referral for you? If I could deliver to you the dream referral of your lifetime, who would it be? Right? And I write that on their business card.
Ah.
Okay?
Nice.
So when I'm introducing these people, I might say who their dream referral is, but more than likely it's going to go Brian, Kathy, Brian. I have no idea how you're going to work together, but I really like your personalities. Hey, you know what? I got to excuse myself and run to the bathroom. And I turn and I walk away. Why? They're only talking about me right now. So I now have the influencers of the party talking about me. I don't know what that crazy nut does. Oh, I don't either. He won't tell anybody. He's running around here.
I think we have a slow connection on his end over there. He just lost his audio again. I'm sure it'll come back again.
Yeah, it seems to take
There we
a
go.
few seconds over there.
Hey, Casey, we had another 10-second lapse. Your video just came back, and your audio is on its way. I think you're back audio.
Okay,
There
am
we
I
go.
back?
Yeah, we're having
Yes.
it looks like your internet connection might be a little on the fritz there.
I've had it all. I've had it all day, but
It's all right.
so I'm just basically looking to introduce all of those people, because here's the thing: at the end, when I leave the event, that's where the work begins, right? The work begins in connectivity, right? So what we're gonna do after we meet and hang out with these people, now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to email them. I'm gonna send an email to all 5 people, just because I want to get to know them. Now, I will tell you this, that I don't ever buy a product from a product, good, or service from a store that I could otherwise buy from a network marketer, a direct seller, or an entrepreneur.
Wow.
Again, pure strategy play here. A good network marketer or a good direct seller or a good entrepreneur has a very large database that I want in. Right? So for me, I could go buy my kitchen stuff at Buy, Break, and Return, otherwise known as Bed Bath & Beyond, or I could buy it from a Tupperware rep. I'm always going to opt for going with the little guy, because I know that me buying a pasta maker from somebody in Tupperware has a higher likelihood of me meeting somebody really cool than me buying that same product from Buy, Break, and Return.
Very good point.
Okay? So
Yes.
I'm going to send him, if I can send him a video email, I will, just because I know there are some network marketing companies out there that use video email. I love video email because people get to know me. It's much easier. If we were just on a phone right now, not nearly as cool as me running and bebopping all around and getting to see this candid behind the scenes curtain call or whatever, right? Okay,
Yes.
so video email. Next thing I do is I call them on the ATM, right? For me, the ATM is the phone, right? To me, it's the same thing. I pick up the phone, it spits out money. So I call them on the phone. And here's how the conversation goes. Hey, Kathy, I'd love to get together for some coffee with you, see more about this referral that you can pass, or that I can pass you, or whatever. I'm trying to connect with Kathy at this point, right? But
Right.
here's the thing. The next thing is one of the most important, and that's this. Pass. Oh, let's do one before the pass. I'd like to send a greeting card in the mail. Okay? Now, there are plenty of companies out there. If you're cheap and you want to go to Office Depot, great. Off Staples, whatever. That's not important. It's important that it's a greeting card in the mail, not an e-card. Don't be a tool. A greeting card where they actually get to feel good that you actually care about them, rather than clicking a couple of buttons on a dumbass e-card. Get started on e-cards. Okay, so a card. I'm gonna get censored. I'm gonna get a call right after this. Our audience. Is so, okay, so card. The next thing I do is I pass them a referral. Okay, now I just signify referral with a capital R and a circle around it, so I don't have to keep writing it out. But remember when I wrote who their dream referral was on that card? Now I'm gonna contact that person, and in the world of social media, this is really easy. People don't do it. Go to LinkedIn and type in their dream referral name. You can connect with them. And then here's the best part. I call these dream referrals, right? So let's say Kathy says, oh my gosh, I want to meet David Royer, right? So I call David Royer on the phone. And this is how the conversation goes. It goes something like this. Hey, David, my name is Casey Eberhart. You don't know me at all, But I happened to be at a high level event with a bunch of entrepreneurs, and I met an incredible woman named Kathy. And what she was saying is that if she could be introduced to you, like that she just thinks you guys would have great synergy. She just knows all about you. She's a huge fan, and she would love to be connected to you. However, I know how high her level of integrity is, and my level of integrity will not introduce you to her unless I know your level of integrity matches hers. So when do you think you and I could get together for a cup of coffee and see if your integrity matches hers?
Ah.
Now, don't you think in Kathy's mind at this point, she's going, A, who's this crackpot? And B, he's got the carrot and the stick. He's got a referral for me, somebody that wants to meet me, but he won't even tell me unless I go have a cup of coffee with this guy.
By
Right?
the way, are you buying?
I would always buy.
Okay, just checking.
I always buy. When in doubt, buy. I have an article on my blog of a guy who was trying to sell me life insurance, and he was doing this whole big presentation. He did this whole thing, and I showed up there, and he's got the clipboard out in front, like he's ready to have me sign, like he's already spending the money he's going to make off of me, right?
Right.
And he shows up, and I show up, and he's like, "Oh, do you want to go get yourself a cup of coffee first?" So I did. I went and I bought a cup of coffee, and I sat down, and I said, "What's this clipboard doing here?" And he's like, "Well, if it all makes sense, I know that we had talked, and if it all makes sense, you might be willing to move forward." And I said, "Oh, then you should put this clipboard away because we're just going to have a conversation." He said, what do you mean?" And I said, "You just lost a huge sale for $3.49, which is the price of my cup of coffee. Because earlier tonight I said, don't be a tool to me doing something where you think someone's going to sign on your bottom line and you're going to sell them something, and you don't buy the cup of coffee for $3.49, you don't deserve the sale."
Right.
Give the customer more value than they ever expect to receive.
Thank you.
Right.
Yes. Love
So,
that.
That's how I work referrals, right? So now I'm talking to Kathy's dream referral. Now, don't you think when I'm sitting down with David, he sees who the kind of guy I am already? He knows what kind of person I am. I just called this guy randomly. I've got him now for coffee. So I'm going to say to David, you know what? I just love connecting people. Who's your dream referral? Who's a guy or a woman that I can connect you with that you're not connected to? And then I call that person. So really, I've used a boring, lame Chamber of Commerce meeting where everyone's trying to sell crap, and now I'm 3 top-level community dream referrals into this already. And I just keep that process going on and on and on. Okay? So that's the 4th one. And then the 5th one, right? So the 5th one is I drop them into my wheel. And really all this means is I want to connect with these 5 people in different ways. And I'll use Facebook as a good example. And we'll use Kathy again, right? I meet Kathy, we introduce her, blah, 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 blah. When I get home, I'm going to try to connect with her on Facebook. Here's why. Chances are Kathy got really excited at the Chamber of Commerce meeting. She went and handed out 50 business cards. Those 50 people then start emailing her. She gets a bunch of spam. She gets so frustrated and irritated with the obnoxious level of sales crap, this spray and pray thing that she's set up on her own by giving out this many cards, right? And then what happens is she changes her email address. So now what? I've lost her. If she's on my newsletter list or on my email list and she changes her email, unless she's in love with me, the reality is she's not going to call me and tell me she's changed her email address. But if I've dropped her into my wheel and I've figured out to connect with her on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, I have her physical address. Now I have different ways so I don't ever lose people so that I can stay in touch of being connected.
Nice.
Right? Now, when you do all of this, here's what happens. Here's the magic. The magic is next month when you walk back into that chamber event, I want you to think about this. Now you walk in, the organizer knows all about you, the speaker knows about you, who's probably a member of the chamber, and all the yap jobs. So now you walk in and you're the celebrity and nobody knows what the heck it is you do in the first place.
Yeah.
And now you have all these people, the influencers of the chamber, all talking about you, going, oh my gosh, you got to meet this guy, Casey. You got to meet, I don't even know what he does, but he's like got me my dream referral, and he sent me this email, and I got this card from him. This guy's got it going on. And then you get to lather, rinse, repeat. Just keep doing this.
Love it.
Love it.
So is that, I don't know if that's helpful, but I love being able to train that.
That's
So
very helpful.
That's extremely helpful.
Behind the curtain we go. I love it. Hey, I'm sure you're a very, very savvy marketer, Casey, obviously, and you know that it's very, very important for one to brand oneself, and you're showing one way that you do it in a very elaborate, wonderful way. This is really great stuff. And you know, it's good to get to the point of being known, liked, and trusted. Those are common terms in the industry that once you get to that point, people are comfortable with you, they trust you, they know you, they're more apt to do business with you. And you're saying it perfectly. You set the table, you get to know them through relationship first before you go vomiting all over them about your product. Just sit there and listen, as you were stating. So you basically want to stand out from the crowd. Now, what is it that you do to differentiate yourself besides what you just described here as far as the networking aspect and connecting? What else do you do to differentiate yourself from the rest in your genre?
well, here's the thing. I understand branding. And going back to what Kathy asked earlier, one of the biggest challenges I had was in realizing that I was spending a lot of time and money and energy branding other people and other companies. And I'll give you an example. I was in network marketing, and I shot way up. I went from number 0 or no, the sign up to number 19 in the income list in about 13 months, right? And here's what happened. Anywhere you went in Southern California and you said the company name, my name came right after it. They at corporate, they had videos with me up on the big screen at convention. They put me in magazines. But the reality was I was branding that company.
Exactly.
It wasn't until I understood and really let it chunk down and sink in that I am my own brand that everything changed. So it's so important that people brand themselves first and whatever they do second. Because the reality is, in today's economy, things change. People change careers. People reinvent yourself. I mean, look, if you'd have told me that I would be traveling around speaking on stages all over the world 5 years ago, I'd have laughed because I was knee deep in pants, right? And 5 years before that, I was making movies. 5 years before that, I was, running around trying to wrangle 2,500 raging hormone teenagers at a water park. Connectivity is the new currency. You have to have people know who you are and what you're connected to and what you bring to the table. So the real way that I stand out from the crowd is in exposure and understanding that I follow through on what I say I'm going to do. And there's something about the universe, the law of reciprocity, that if you can give people more value than they ever expect to receive, you stay connected, and you continuously connect them to those people that they want to know. It doesn't matter if you're selling real estate, if you're selling greeting cards, if you're selling branding packages, if you're selling coaching, it all works out. Because at the end of the day, I don't care what product, good, or service you're selling, people are buying you first and the product second.
Yes.
So I just work really hard to make the Casey Eberhart brand as best as I can, and have it be exposed in as many places as possible. A good friend of mine is a huge internet marketer. One of my close friends, a guy by the name of Cedric Harris. And I'll never forget one day, he sat me down, he's like, yo, bro, you gotta be like Coolio. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know what Coolio is. Is that a cake? Is it a person? Is it a band? Is it a movie? And it's a rapper. This guy's a rap star. But Coolio's marketing model, and if people don't know Coolio by name, all I have to say is he's the guy that has really tight cornrows and wears lots of watches and stuff around his neck. And everybody always goes, oh, yeah, I know him. Nobody even knows the guy's name. But here's what Coolio has mastered. Be everywhere all the time. Be everywhere all the time. So Coolio, as a rap star, has done duets with the likes of Taylor Swift. He does stuff with like Alabama, like all these bands that you would be like, there's no real reason, but he's getting into their database. He's bringing some of his database over. They're bringing some of their database over. They find the center, but he's everywhere all the time. And that's really, I think, for me, what stands out. So when somebody says, hey, can I have you be a guest on my radio show? Yes. I don't care if there's one person listening. Somebody says, hey, will you write an article for my blog? Absolutely. Hey, will you do an interview on camera for 30 seconds with a YouTube video for me? Absolutely. You got to be everywhere all the time, because those impressions are what turn to connections, and those connections what turns to audience turns to sales. And that's just a funnel put together by a good friend of mine, David Fagan, from the Icon Builder, and he's it's branding is just getting to be known.
And what's exciting about that is the fact when you're sharing about just talking to a few people, right? You've shared the story where you went to an event and I think it was like 2 or 3 people that showed up, and you still went and you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you ended up, the 2 or 3 people purchased your products from you.
Oh, it's so funny. We know each other because of that meeting. You don't know that, but we know each other because of that meeting. I'll tell you why. So I get a call from a friend of mine, Karen, up in San Francisco, and she says, hey, will you come up and present at one of my meetups? And I said, sure, absolutely. So I knew that I had to be back the same day. So from Los Angeles to San Francisco is about a 7-hour drive, right? Now, as a speaker, obviously, we get our juice, if you will, from being in front of larger audiences, right? It's more fun, there's more energy, it's that whole thing, right? However, I drive 7 hours up and I walk into this deli, and this deli was dimly lit. It was kind of gross. And I'm like waiting for this whole gaggle of people to show up. It was myself, my friend Karen, who was the organizer of the meeting, and one person, a woman by the name of Cara Keister. Okay, so now what? I've driven 7 hours up there. What do? I said, you know what? We're going to do the same. We're going to have a conversation. This is going to be just as much fun training, whether there was one person here or 10,000. So I did. I did my little song and dance. We had a big, great conversation. Cara ended up buying my CD package. And so I had gas money to get home, right? And I drove home. But I gave it 100%, and I gave them way more value than they thought they were going to receive with only being the only one there. Well, Cara has since become one of my close friends. She happened to lead a chapter of the DSWA, which is the Direct Selling Women's Alliance. She happens to be a top income earner in her direct sales company. Her best friend happens to be one of the leaders in Tupperware, another big direct sales company. And because of her, I have probably been put on 50 to 100 stages. I've made 6 figures easily by all of the stuff that's being sold. And it's rekindled a lot of relationships with people that are mutual friends of both of ours. So I got rekindled with Maurice Domino, the Sicilian mentor, because of that. I've met Craig Duswall, and you just start putting out where these referrals or these connections come from, and it can all be traced down to that one meeting. I mean, it's unbelievable when I think about it.
Oh, goodness.
Did I lose? Am I here?
We're here.
Yeah, you're here.
We're as deep
That's
as
absolutely amazing. Well, you've kind of covered branding a bit, so I think I want to move on to talking about tools because it's so important. Brian and I have put together a program called My Entrepreneur Toolkit, right? So we realize and understand how important tools are in our business. Now, for Brian and I, the tools that we use, that we have incorporated in my Entrepreneur Toolkit, are tools that we actually use in our business. So what tools do you find are essential to the business model and what you do?
That's a great question. And again, I know that I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's so true. I love tools that help and assist and support people in staying connected with other people. Right. So when we were talking about greeting cards, I use a company called Send Out Cards. It's just a great internet greeting card company. It's a great company. I have an email signature file that I put on the bottom of every email I send out, right? You can find it at awesomeemailtool.com. Okay. Then let's see. I hope this is a lead in for my own product, but I just launched a brand new product that will help increase that brand awareness using Facebook. So I'm going to, because I am in control of the camera right now.
I think we just lost his video and audio again. I'm kidding.
I was gonna say this is the main part. No, so I got sick of being on Facebook and watching, having struggles with posting status updates. So I partnered with some developers and launched on Tuesday a product called statussetgo.com. And what this is it allows you to do a few things. You can actually set a status up to repeat. So from a branding perspective, if I have a consistent message over time, higher likelihood someone's going to read the message, right? This product allows you to schedule out status updates. So for example, right now during this interview, I have scheduled a status update on my Facebook page that should go out somewhere in the middle of this interview. Only because I knew that my audience was coming right off of, I just did a big call right before this, and I knew that they needed some follow-up. We have about 4,000 messages already inside the system to help you engage with fan engagement and interactivity. The other thing it does is it allows you to post simultaneously to 20 groups at a time. So if Brian has a message that he wants to go to all of his groups where his prospects or potential prospects might be hanging out, he can do that. And then the last thing it does, which is by far the most important from a branding and a connectivity standpoint, is, you know, when you see on Facebook, you'll see a little blue bird and it'll say, the post underneath it'll say via Twitter. Right. Well, now that's your branded icon and it will say via Kathy or via Brian or via whatever you tell us to put there, and that will link to any website that you want it to go to. The reason that's important is that creates a dynamic link from the #2 most trafficked website on the planet back to whatever website you are. So we have all these tools inside of Facebook to help us, going back to branding, generate a consistent message over time. It also allows us to be exposed to more places. Remember, we're talking about impressions and Coolio, be everywhere all the time. It also allows you to post statuses. Let's say you're on vacation and you don't want anybody to know you're not home. Boom. You can schedule it out, so it saves time, energy, and money, right? So for me, this is just a side note, and I don't normally say this, but to me, SYSTEM is an acronym. It stands for Save Yourself Some Time, Energy, and Money. So nice. all I did with Status@Go was create a status scheduling system. So you guys can go check it out at Status@Go. We just launched on this past week, so the site will be updated and changed, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. But here's the thing: at the end of the day, I love social media. Right? For me, that's one of the best places. We all, before we are now in the age of voice. Right? Everybody wants a voice. Everybody wants an article written. Everybody wants to talk. Everyone wants to be a yap job. We're all into this age of voice, whether it's a microblog, a teleseries, a teleseminar, a webinar, an interview show like this, a radio show, a TV show, some sort of pulpit where we can send our message. And that's what I just love, is why social media for me is so important, because not that I really care what everybody is having for breakfast or for lunch, which is kind of the go-to, what everybody thinks social media is. But what it does is it allows me to stay in touch with my friends, family, and clients between phone calls and lets me know what they're up to.
That's really
And
cool.
that's one of the reasons I love social media.
That's really cool because Facebook has long needed tools to automate, and it's been very difficult nut to crack, so to speak. Kathy and I have been involved with Twitter many months, going back a couple years, for a long time, where those types of tools and ability to do certain similar things that you're talking about were available. And Kathy and I became extremely prolific at the use of Twitter for many different reasons. And now hearing this is very exciting because Facebook has been pretty tight as far as what type of automation they will allow. And I'm imagining this is an app that they've approved, and you've been through that hurdle already. Fantastic. So
I would have launched this 6 months ago if we didn't have to do some tweaks within Facebook. And you know, even though I can get frustrated with something like Facebook, the reality is I'm playing in the gray, right? Facebook is really for friends and family to communicate with each other. Us marketers and branders, we're kind of trying to tweak the system and play in the gray a bit.
Sure.
So there are some things that Facebook absolutely says no. For example, you can't upload a photo into Status Set Go and have that photo go into a group. You have to do it through a link, right? You know, because they don't want just automated messages going out. That's why you can only post to 20 groups per day, because they don't want this. We had to go round and round, because they don't want people just out there blasting and it becoming a big spam thing like MySpace did back in the day, which is why everybody left MySpace.
Sure. Excellent.
But I've got to tell you, this Status Set Go tool is phenomenal. It is a time saver. And the thing about it is, with a little tweaking and creativity, that baby rocks the house.
Oh, and I got to tell you, Kathy, it's so funny because people are just starting to use it. And what happens is, so like I said, we have about 4,000 messages in there to help engage people. So a lot of questions, fill in the blanks, that kind of thing. So what you can do is you can test this thing, shuffle them if you don't like them, then set the thing, and then you can tweak it. So if it doesn't, because sometimes, when I'm typing these things in and we're coming up with them, they don't always make all that much sense for everybody. So use it as a jump off point for you to make up your own status that are far more creative than what most of us come up with on our own.
Yeah, that's neat. Awesome.
That's very
Hey,
cool.
you know what I forgot to do all this entire show, Kathy?
I know, I
tell
just
folks-
thought about it at the same time.
Yeah, there's this handsome dude beneath us, not live moving, but it's the same guy. It turns out he's just kind
Is
of
it me?
still. Yeah, it's you.
It's you.
There's a picture of you right beneath this live, beautiful television monitor folks are watching at celebritycreators.com. And if folks were to click right on your nose, but if they do it now, they'll be taken away from the show. So wait just a few minutes. We only have 6 or so minutes left to go. Click right on his nose after the show's over, and that will take you to his Facebook fan page. Funny we mentioned that one.
Awesome, and that's the best place to connect with me. Here's a problem, and I'm sure you guys are aware of this, but right now Facebook has a 5,000 friend limit. So the challenge is, what do we do when we hit 5,000? And some people go, oh my gosh, that's so many people. But the reality is, if you are building a business and you're using social media, it's connections.
Exactly.
Filter them out. So you have to have a fan page. So come visit me on the fan page, connect with me, and we'll get along and we'll hang out.
But as we like to say, but wait, there's more, Casey. Because in addition to that handsome mug that's down there, there's also the Ideal Networker banner. Click on that and you will get in the loop. He's got an opt-in form on that website. Just opt in. You can see what a friendly guy he is. He's not out to spam people. He'll make a relationship with you before he hits you up for the big bucks. I'm kidding. And be sure to opt into that forum. Get connected with Casey. You can see he's a happy-go-lucky, easygoing guy, and we love him to death. He's a great friend, a lifelong professional friend of ours, and I'm sure that's gonna increase into, actual real friendship where we don't just meet to talk about business all the time. He's that kind of guy. He really is. He's very approachable. So get connected with him both right on his nose and through the Ideal Networker after this show is complete. So we talked about tools, and we're getting really close to being done. And you wanted to do something with 2 minutes left, so we'll be sure to make sure we shoot that out. But want to make sure that we find what makes Casey Eberhart tick. What drives you to do what you do? You are obviously extremely driven. Where did you get that drive from?
I think I got it from my grandfather, and it's really funny. I'm getting chills now just thinking about it, but it's really about understanding that business is all fluff. At the end of the day, it's all fluff. We're just exchanging things, pieces of plastic, something that somebody designed, for money to go exchange that with somebody else, to exchange that with somebody else for something they have. Right. And at the end of the day, we're losing the human interaction. And sometimes we talk about business and we can get really wrapped up in tools and systems and all this, and we lose the human element. Yeah. And the relationship between people. And I just have never taken for granted my relationships. I've never taken, what drives me is if I meet somebody, what if I'm the link? What if I'm the guy that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that's going to make that person a millionaire or make them successful in their business? For me, the drive of being able to connect that and connect those dots is unbelievably awesome. It's on some level, I kind of take it as an awesome responsibility, I think is the right word for it, because I just know that business is always going to come back to me, whether I'm making pants, making movies, selling water parks, buying roller coasters, selling greeting cards, selling status at go, whatever. None of that matters. What matters is, can I help and serve and support you in building your business or your relationship? And that is what drives me every day. That and my 2 little nephews.
I love that. That's amazing. And that is so much of who you are. So much of who you are. And I've got to tell you, we're at the 2-minute warning, baby. So you're on.
Awesome. Well, let me just say, first, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. It's actually a really interesting dynamic watching this all on video screens and play out in technology, and me having to stand still and hit a mark and not run around, because usually, you guys know, I kind of tend to run around a bit. But I just want to give a heartfelt message to everybody that's watching this, and that's this. You need to be acknowledged. There are a million things that you could have done tonight, today, this morning, this evening, whenever you're watching this. A million things. There's mafia wars on Facebook. There's ballet lessons for the kids. There's soccer practice. There's a good TV show. But you chose this. You chose to be here with Brian, Kathy, and myself. You chose to invest your time in your own business. And so I only hope that something that I've said, or that Brian has said, or that Kathy has said, has sparked something in you that will help you be a better person, a better business person, a better entrepreneur. And if you can just connect to that one person, you never know. That may just be your absolutely dream referral. So with that, I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. But tomorrow, go out and give somebody else an awesome, awesome, awesome day. Thank you guys for having me. Brian, Kathy, thank you both for having me. And especially, I want to thank you, the other entrepreneur sitting on the other side of this screen watching. So have a great day.
You know what, Casey, thank you so much. Before we close tonight, I just want to say I'm so thankful and grateful that the connections came around from that dingy deli, and that somehow we became one of the octopus fingers out there that were touched by the fabulous person that you are, because you've certainly enlightened our lives and enlighten the lives of the people that have come to join us tonight and will watch this recording. Thank you so much, and we look forward to future connections with you. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to Brian.
Yeah, Casey, thank you so much for gracing our stage, if you will, tonight. And the door's open, buddy. You're invited anytime. Fantastic, incredible value, incredible content, incredible human being. I wanted to thank you from the bottom of our heart as well for being here with us and sharing what you just did with our audience. That meant a lot to us, a lot. Very, very good stuff. And, we were supposed to have coffee one day. I'm going to hold you to it, so we're going to have to meet halfway somewhere and have a little powwow. And, I will buy your coffee if you want. I'm not going to bring a clipboard, though. But
yeah, don't bring a clipboard.
But thanks again so much, Casey. For the rest of you watching, we're going to be back. I think we're going to take a little holiday break, Kathy and I. So just register, click the register button above, and we will notify you of our next upcoming show and who that fantastic guest is going to be and when it's coming back. In the meantime, we'll have some goodies down here on this page for you to look at. and watch and enjoy at your leisure. And it might even be Casey. I don't know. We got to talk about it on Kath. But anyway, I digress. We appreciate all of your time. Thank you so much for watching the Celebrity Creator Show. We will see you again in, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 weeks. We'll figure it out. Click the register button. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye now.
Good night, everybody.